Welcome, everybody. I've got another one here on how to cope with anxiety. I'm Russ Curtis, counselor educator, and been doing that for over 20 years now. And anxiety is something that I have experienced for a long time personally, but I don't like to use the term anymore because I think it's actually something else. I think we've tried to simplify what anxiety is, and we relate it often to self-esteem and confidence, and that can play a role, but it's not everything. So I'd love to see us advance here. But I also recognize that anxiety is incredibly uncomfortable and it's incredibly frightening when we experience anxiety and we have a hard time catching our breath. Our stomach hurts. We feel like we've got the flu, and maybe we feel like we've got the flu and going crazy. We feel like we may faint. It is incredibly uncomfortable. So I want to give you some concrete things here that when working with your own anxiety or working with clients to keep in mind. First, normalize, okay? Now that's not minimizing the symptoms. These are severe symptoms, okay? You're not gonna die from anxiety. If it's prolonged and untreated, it's not healthy. But normalize that anxiety is the most common mental illness in the world today. And I don't like to call it mental illness. It's more of a stress response, but that make people aware that it's a common one. Also, you may have heard this, that if you're awake in society today, you're going to experience anxiety and depression because so many of our systems are oppressive and we lack equality. And I mean, we have systems that are telling people at birth that you are innately flawed. And then all of a sudden, when you don't have high self-esteem and that you are not confident in yourself, people are like, why are you not confident? Okay, but we never question this. You know, you've been taught since birth that you're innately flawed, and then all of a sudden you're supposed to be confident and have great self-esteem. So if you are awake in the world today, you're going to experience some anxiety and depression from time to time. And be aware of that that's not a mental illness. It is probably your way of coping with a society which is very upside down. And hopefully we're going to be making some positive changes. Also, with anxiety, so much into behavioral health is related to self-esteem and self-talk and all that. You know, there are many different ways you can experience anxiety and what can cause anxiety. Just one is sensitivity. You may not recognize it, but you may be very sensitive to light and sound and textures and so forth. And that can create an anxiety, okay? And there's other things as well. Genetics plays a big role. If mom and dad or grandmom and granddad had it or experienced it, they maybe have been really awake too and have this as well. So, and also I would say the sensitivity is a strength. I think people that come here and they want to make meaningful differences and they want to contribute, they wanted to be tapped in. Okay, they wanted to be tapped in so that they could access as much as possible to write and create and to help people. So reframe this to make it more accurate. Okay, the next thing, from existential therapy. When somebody's experiencing anxiety, we definitely want to give them coping skills, which we're going to talk about. But also, from existential therapy, anxiety can be a signal that we may need to make some life changes, okay? And this can be, hey, is this the right career for me? Is this the right college major for me? Or have I been pressured into it by family or society? Is this the right relationship for me? So a lot of times, according to existential therapy, anxiety is a signal that take a close look at what's going on in your life. So as a counselor, you can teach these cognitive or these different coping skills while in session processing some of this stuff with clients, okay, and normalizing and reframing. Now, cognitive restructuring, I've got a couple videos on that, but ultimately what this is helping people be more gentle with themselves. Okay, so for instance, with the example we're talking about today, when somebody's anxious, the irrational or unproductive thought would be, I'm anxious because I have poor self-esteem and negative self-talk, okay? The more productive or more rational way, if we're restructuring that thought, would be, yes, self-esteem and negative self-talk could be a part of this, but this also could be that I am highly sensitive to what's going on in the world and desperately want to help make changes and evolve. And so I experience just kind of the dis-ease of society. And I'm going to use that to my advantage and society's advantage. Now, that was a long restructure, but ultimately what I'm saying is, oh, wait a minute. Maybe this isn't just self-esteem. Maybe this is actually a strength and a skill that I do need to learn how to manage, but I've asked for so that I can help evolve the society, okay? And I've got other videos, check that out. Mindfulness practice is not about relaxation. Mindfulness is about building the mindfulness muscle, which is ultimately saying thoughts are just thoughts. They're not your reality. You don't have to act on them. Everybody has an enormous number of thoughts speeding through our brain. We get to choose which ones we're going to focus on. Okay. And mindfulness practice, whether that is sitting and paying attention to the breath, or repeating silently a mantra. And with anxiety, I love the mantra of on the exhale, oh, well, oh, well. It's just kind of a let go saying for me, but everybody needs to find their own kind of saying. And it could just be a sound, om or amen or whatever it might be. But it's about building the mindfulness muscle. I practice mindfulness washing the dishes. I can practice mindfulness walking. I love walking. I practice mindfulness sketching. I love to sketch, and it's a very mindful activity. So this isn't just sitting in silence, although I do think that's helpful, okay? 4-7-8 breathing. Inhale to 4, hold to 7, exhale slowly as if blowing out a straw. Purse your lips, blow out a straw to the count of 8. And repeat this 8 times in the morning, 8 times at night. You're actually improving and strengthening the vagus nerve when you do this, okay? If you practice this, 8 rounds of this in the morning, 8 rounds at night, you'll probably find that sleep is a little better if you do it right before bed. But this is actually strengthening the vagus nerve, which deals with the nervous system and helping regulate the nervous system, okay? When really stressed, and I'll use the term panic, okay, because we know that's incredibly uncomfortable and scary, but when we close our eyes, we reduce stimulus. We reduce the stimulus. So when you find yourself really stressed, it's helpful if you can close your eyes and maybe even do 4-7-8 breathing in the moment. Okay. I have had clients who have gotten really excited in session. I'm going to go ahead. They were panicking in session. And I found that having them close their eyes and act as, the only thing I was telling them is blow as if you're blowing through a straw. When you exhale, pretend you're blowing through a straw, and it helped regulate the breathing. Okay. So practice, close the eyes to reduce stimulus. Cough. This is one that maybe, I think how this works is by activating the vagus nerve. So the vagus nerve can start regulating the your nervous system. But a cough is, and a couple or 2 or 3 good coughs can help regulate that. This is one thing I found. Now, it's not like coughing on and on, but this is like 2 or 3 kind of intentional coughs can kind of activate that vagus nerve to help calm you down. And then you've probably heard of this, but this is also just about being aware in the moment. So getting out of the thoughts, getting out of the stimulus to some extent, and just and really get out. Because one thing that happens is once you get anxious, then your mind really starts racing. We want to calm that mind down. And one way we can do this is be very concrete. Hold on a second. I'm getting really stressed out. I'm feeling a little panicky. What are 5 things I see? Okay, I see a picture, I see a light, I see a screen. So go through that. What are 4 things you can touch? Okay, fingers, pen, desk, whatever. 3 things you hear: car, wind, ceiling fan. 2 things you smell, and one thing you taste. This is to get you out of your racing mind and be present in the moment. Okay, so these are more concrete. These two things are about building that awareness. And I love when John Kabat-Zinn talks about mindfulness. And I think the same thing about 478 breathing is we need to be practicing this a little bit every day so that we're kind of weaving the parachute so that when we need that parachute, as if jumping out of a plane, and that's a metaphor for when we're really stressed, that it can work. We can activate it. We can't just do this in the moment. We want to build this as if we're learning a skill like playing an instrument or practicing a sport or learning to write well. We got to practice it every day in order to get better at it. All right, good people. Good luck with this. I know anxiety is really uncomfortable and scary. It is the #1 mental illness out there. There are so many people with it. There are a lot more people out there than you know who admit to it. The other thing that I did not mention here is it is helpful if you first start experiencing this to get a medical eval, just to check out thyroid, blood sugar, helpful to have a good medical evaluation every year, but that can be helpful as well. You don't want to attribute to this to self-esteem when you find out your blood sugar or your thyroid is really out of whack for a while. And also, if medicine is required for a period of time, don't beat yourself up about that. Remember, we're living in a society with a lot of things that are topsy-turvy and upside down and how we understand it. And we're going to need some external help at times to help cope with that. So don't, be grateful that people are creating medicine that can help. All right. Talk to you soon with our next video. Take care, good people.